As we begin a new week here on Three Man Front, welcome in. This is Jocks, Pat Landrum, Molly Conrad with you until 2 o'clock. This is what we have coined Reaction Monday. A reaction to get to. Alabama big win against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Landrum never thought I would, in all my years of broadcasting, that I would start a show by saying a big win against the Vanderbilt Commodores, but this is the world we live in now.
Yeah, it is. And for all of the build-up of the game, it was everything perfect. But you know what? How about that defense making adjustments? Kane Womack, step up, show yourself, wave to the crowd. We're not going to make T-shirts or design a website that says fire you this week. Well,
hopefully Kane Womack's family does not subscribe to any social media channels because after the first quarter, it did not look very pretty.
It was brutal.
And in regards to Kane Womack and the defensive prowess of the Alabama Crimson Tide, but as Landrum mentioned, the adjustments in the second half, that was huge for the Tide, and they were able to contain Diego Pavia. And you remember Manny Navarro from The Athletic? Remember that specific prediction column that I read to y'all last week? Remember when he said that Vanderbilt was going to have multiple turnovers and they were going to commit more turnovers than Alabama, and that was going to be the difference in the game? I know the score got sideways, but that basically was what Manny Navarro predicted, was that Vanderbilt was going to commit more turnovers, and at the end of the game, Alabama was going to get the win, and that's exactly what happened. So Diego Pavia, for all the Heisman Trophy talk, you can throw that out the window. He threw for 183 yards, ran for 58, but those two turnovers in the red zone, those were brutal. A fumble, and then, of course, they threatened in the red zone with a chance to take the lead, but Keon Sabb came up with a huge interception. And so Alabama was able to get the victory 30-14.
Yeah, and that final interception, that's pretty much what did it. But Alabama had responses at the right time in the second half, and you could tell it. That defense, they believed that they were going to make a play, and they made enough plays, whether it was getting a turnover or just coming up with a big play at a big time.
Simpson throws for 340 yards. He did have that interception. A little bit surprised that Alabama ran the play that they ran on that fourth down call. He throws the interception. But just once again, Ty Simpson, very effective. We're going to get into it later on the show in regards to perhaps him holding on the ball a little bit too long. Some of those sacks was all on him. But Alabama is now fifth nationally in passing offense. Pretty good for a team that after the Florida State game, Conrad, many people thought, oh my goodness, we may not win a game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I think now Ty Simpson leads the SEC in passing yards, has the second most touchdowns in the conference behind Diego Pavia, funny enough. But yeah, I think right now you can make a very compelling argument that he's the best quarterback in the SEC and maybe even the best quarterback in the country right now, and he's a lot of the reasons for the success of that team. And I know that Alabama, you were able to run the ball early in that game and you were able to run the ball late in that game, but in the second and third quarters, they essentially abandoned the run and they said, hey, Ty Simpson, we're going to need you to go out there and do some magic, and he certainly did that. How about that touchdown drive at the end of the first half when you had about a minute and a half left, and then obviously the defense getting the stop out of halftime was huge. But yeah, Ty Simpson continuing to deliver big time.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, but Jam Miller being able to get those yards, especially late in those are the kind of plays, drives that win football games. Yeah, it's just one step closer to winning.
Yeah, 10 of his 22 carries came in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
So it reminded me of the old days. Remember when I'm not saying Jam Miller's Derrick Henry, I'm just proving a point that when Derrick Henry was in the backfield and you had that punishing running back, Saban would give it to him like a million times.
Yeah.
To just eat the clock and just demoralize the defensive line. And you could tell that Vandy's defense got on the back heels.
Having a fresh running back in the fourth quarter, one as talented as Jam Miller.
And he does really well in pass protection too.
Yep.
Picking up blitzes. So Miller rushed for 136, a touchdown on 22 carries. First time in the last 15 games that Alabama has had a running back go for 100 yards. Isn't that hard to believe?
That is very hard to believe.
The last time it happened was Jam Miller. It's been 15 games. Now, again, Jalen Milroe had it, but he's not running back.
Conrad can speak to this, but it was still surreal to me watching that game, how amped up and packed Bryant-Denny Stadium was for Vanderbilt.
Oh, I mean, being down there before the game, you wouldn't have thought that it was a Vanderbilt game. I mean, it reminded me of, it's not quite like, an LSU game or something like
Like a
that.
Texas A&M?
Yeah, it had the feel of
So there wasn't 100,000 people at Denny Chimes like an LSU game.
Not quite, but there were. There were a ton of people down there, and there were. I will give credit. There were a few times in the game where if you had your eyes closed and you're just listening to the crowd reaction, there were enough Vanderbilt fans there where there were times you're like, wait, did Alabama do something good or was that Vanderbilt? Because there were a lot of fans there and they were they were loud.
You could hear it. I was listening as I was leaving Protective Stadium and listening to that portion before I got home to the Alabama broadcast and Chris Stewart, and you could hear in the background how many Vanderbilt fans were in that stadium.
Oh yeah, I mean when you had the fumble that it wasn't a fumble, but it looked like Ty Simpson might have fumbled it that one time and they overturned it. I mean, you would have thought it was almost 50-50 Vanderbilt Alabama fans in terms of just the crowd reaction as they were reviewing that play. It was credit to the Vanderbilt fans.
Yeah, and you can't say enough about the Alabama defense, especially in the second half. Vanderbilt's running game had totaled 126 yards in the first half. That's 12.7 yards per carry in the first half against Alabama. But then in the second half, they just had 9 total rushing yards. So the adjustment was made. You can't say enough about Justin Jefferson. He led Bama's defense. He had 14 tackles. He had a forced fumble, and he had a sack. And what's so interesting about all that with Justin Jefferson, because Pavia sued the NCAA to get an extra year of eligibility, guess who else got an extra year of eligibility?
Justin
Jefferson. So isn't that irony? As it would have. That's pretty amazing.
It is, it is amazing. And it was a good day for not only him, but for Keon Sabb, because those are two guys that, and I think rightfully so at times, two guys that have been criticized on this defense so far for Alabama of not showing up and being as good as maybe we had expected them to be. But both of them, obviously Justin Jefferson, the big day overall, and Keon Sabb with the late interception. So a good day for a couple of guys that have played better football maybe in past seasons, so maybe they're turning the corner a little bit.
So last year, the two stats that really stood out was Vanderbilt was 12 of 18 on third down. They did not have that success Saturday at Bryant-Denny. The time of possession was really out of whack last year. This year, Bama had a 15-minute advantage in the time of possession over Vanderbilt. Here's another key. A lot of people don't talk about this, but it was huge. Last year against Vandy, Alabama's defense had 11 missed tackles. On Saturday, they had 4. Much more efficient defense made plays, so that was the key to the victory. Ty Simpson, he was not a very happy camper after the game. Yeah, he was happy because they got the win, but take a listen to Ty Simpson because he feels like there's still plenty of room of improvement, especially from him.
It's one, like all coming together and having good plays, right, is always great. I think that's what killed us in the first half, right, and it's really my fault. I took four sacks. Like, I can't do that. I got to throw the ball away and just set us back. But, we got on track in half to the second half, right? And just all around good football by the guys overall.
Your thoughts on Ty, his performance?
Yeah, I think that he kind of summed it up. There were some things that we have not seen in the last 3 games or really seen from him to that point in the season. But the thing is, he didn't let it continue to be a trend. He still came back. He didn't get in his own head. He was still able to make good plays. And look, you're not going to be absolutely perfect or look like a Heisman Trophy candidate each and every week, especially against a team like he saw on Saturday. But I thought he showed leadership. He regrouped, and even on your best day, if you can win over a top 15 team, hats off.
Yeah, I thought he looked really, really solid. I think if I were to walk away with a negative of that game for the offense, you're gonna have to be able to finish drives in the end zone more than they did against Vanderbilt because they just left too many points out there, right? You had 3 field goals you converted on. You had the one that, dear Lord, that you missed. But yeah. That was a bad kick again. But again, that was just my thing is you had multiple times where they moved the ball consistently really the entire game. They just would stall, whether it was Ty Simpson holding it on too long and taking a sack and putting them behind the chains. There were just too many of those opportunities that as you progress in the season, you're going to have to convert those into touchdowns. But I mean, again, you walked out with a 16-point victory over a top 25 team, so we're kind of nitpicking.
Well, here's the other good news for Alabama is up until the Georgia game, the penalty issue, that stat, the crazy stat in which Alabama was either equal or they had more penalty yards than their opponent in every single game under Kalen DeBoer until the Georgia game. And guess what? That's now 2 in a row that the opposition had more penalty yards than Alabama. So that's trending in the right direction.
And another thing, another credit to the defense is they were able to limit the explosive plays for the most part from the passing game of Diego Pavia. You look at a guy like Eli Stowers and what he came in with and what he could potentially do. What was it? He had like 22 yards. I think his longest catch that he had was that controversial on the sideline.
Oh, was he in or out? Yeah.
Was he out? And that was for 7 yards. So even with him and Sherrill, who's a very good wide receiver, well, they got their targets and their touches, but they didn't beat you with real big explosive plays.
No, outside of that, you had the 65-yard touchdown early, obviously, and then
Yes.
Pavia broke a big one in the first quarter, and then after that, they settled down nicely. And Pat, you mentioned the time of possession, how big that was. I think my favorite stat from Saturday, Alabama possessed the ball longer in the first half of this game than they did the entirety of last year's game in 4 quarters. So that just showed you that was a major point of emphasis, and they did an excellent.
This is Reaction Monday. We always love to hear from you on these Mondays. 1-800-239-WJOX. Text line is 205-834-9450. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines and we'll read your text messages. Denzel, what he had to say prior to the game on the field and what he said after the game. That's all coming up next on Reaction Monday on Jocks. It is 10:15. Phone lines are open. 1-800-239-WJOX, 205-834-50 on the courtesy GMC text line. We do this each and every Monday. Molly has a hot and cold from the weekend brought to you by Train.
Alrighty. I'm going to start with cold was really easy. It's James Franklin. Because we always joke that James can't win the big one. Can't win the big one. But apparently he can't win the smallest of the small ones either. Because you lost to arguably the worst team in the Big Ten thus far. Probably one of the worst teams in the Power Four. Because UCLA had yet to lead in a single game that they had played all year prior to Saturday.
He was the answer to a Pat Punter's question last week. I'm so proud of myself for saying James Franklin.
Yep.
You want to know what's really fun? UCLA's interim head coach now has the same number of top 10 wins in his career that James Franklin does.
He's also beaten as many ranked teams as Hugh Freeze has since his time at Auburn.
Kind of sad. They even let UCLA have a successful onside kick. And we all know how I feel about onside kicks. I hate them.
By the way, this music, I'm just waiting for a woman in aerobics gear with a microphone headset on.
Yeah.
High knees, girls.
Didn't Taylor Swift write in one of her songs on her new album about Katy Perry?
I don't think so.
You double check that.
No, it's about the Charlie
Yeah.
XCX girl. It's another
A
pop
different pop
singer.
star. Bad Blood is about Katy Perry.
Is it?
Now I understand Taylor Swift's also ripped off 2 songs
Yeah,
off other artists.
She's been sued a couple of times.
Did she? I don't know.
No, in this new album.
Oh, on the new one?
Yeah, Jonas Brothers song and another one. Yeah, get ready. Swift's about to be in court.
Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Now let's talk Taylor Swift.
Okay.
That's Pat's cold for the weekend. Taylor Swift
Evidently.
drama.
What's the what's your cold? Hot?
That was my cold.
Oh.
So what's your hot?
My hot is Vanderbilt. But no, not Diego Pavia or his mom or Johnny Football. My hot belongs to the Vanderbilt volleyball team. Because this weekend, they swept the Arkansas Razorbacks, which gave them their first conference win in 45 years.
I saw that. Yeah, that's awesome.
You might be thinking, what? Well, Vanderbilt brought back their volleyball team. They haven't had it since 1980. And this weekend, they got their first win over a conference opponent. They have beaten some non-conference teams, but they started out their season, I believe, losing to like Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Texas. Pretty rough schedule if
Other
you're
programs,
a volleyball fan.
other athletic departments are cutting sports. Vanderbilt with a big flex. Hey, we're bringing back volleyball.
We're bringing back volleyball, exactly. And I'm a huge college volleyball fan. And plus, Nebraska volleyball is still undefeated after taking Penn State to the woodshed this weekend. It was awesome.
You better watch out. They're going to start stealing you guys' recruits.
I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Nebraska's a powerhouse in volleyball.
I know.
But anyway, it's that season where you might be running the AC during the day, but the heat at night. And that stress on your home comfort system is why you need a Train. They've been named America's most trusted brand for 11 consecutive years. So you know you can count on the reliability of a Train to keep your home and your family comfortable for years to come. So go and find out more. Visit train.com.
Well, she just mentioned Johnny Manziel. It's pretty interesting. Prior to the game, he posted this on social media about being in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
What's up, guys? Johnny Manziel here. Haven't been here since 2012 when you all know what happened. Today, good luck to the Tide, but it's a Diego Pavia Vandy beatdown. Tune in. Have a good day.
All right.
Was he wearing? Why was he wearing a red shirt? It looked like it was a red shirt.
At first, yes, and then he put the Pavia jersey on.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So the Vanderbilt beatdown did not take place. So first off, I was glad to see that he did not end up on a Tuscaloosa County Jail website after the game.
Yep.
First and foremost, that was a win for Team Johnny Manziel.
I think that's a win for everybody.
Yes, very much so. Except bail bondsman. In Tuscaloosa
Except for the
County.
bail bondsman.
Yeah.
Even the would-be.
So he did have time to go on Shannon Sharp's podcast, literally minutes after the game, take a listen to what he had to say about Alabama's beatdown of Vanderbilt.
Bama is playing at a level right now where they can compete with anybody in the country. If Simpson's going to play ball the way that he has played the last 2 weeks, Alabama has a chance to play with anybody in the country. I had to go up to him after the game. I'm on the field. I'm obviously sitting there in a Diego Pavia jersey. That is my dog. And people were asking me in the stadium, like, well, you're wearing that jersey? I'm like, what do you want me to do? Walk in here in a Mark Ingram jersey and I can't go back to A&M in 2 weeks? What do you want me to do? This is my guy, a guy I talk to weekly, and I'm pulling for him. You lost to a good team on the road in Bryant-Denny, which if you go back through history, not a lot of people have won that. And as that game started to get out of hand, those fans started to rip me apart. You're going to see some clips of me. I haven't been back there since 2012 in that stadium. There ain't nothing you can say to me. I'm sitting here supporting my boy. And, oh, yeah, by the way, I already did what I needed to do in this stadium. I already got something that's at my grandma's house for the rest of my life. So I'm good.
All right.
Yeah. His shooting of the double birds on the sideline.
Yep.
That was class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like Diego Pavia grabbing his junk, towards the student section during warm-ups. I mean, once again, I have the utmost respect for Clark Lee, but to allow those two clowns to do what they did on Saturday, and I'm talking about Pavia and Johnny Manziel, I mean, really.
Going back to the Alabama crowd, and I know, Conrad, you were in the press box, but I did notice there was a different decibel level when Diego Pavia got slammed to the turf as opposed to any other Vanderbilt player.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the funniest thing was when they ran out of the tunnel at the beginning of the game, I had the thought to myself, I don't know if they've ever been booed like this before. I mean, seriously, like they were getting booed like it was Auburn, Georgia, LSU running out onto that field. And so the crowd was very evident. He took that hit early on. I can't remember who it was, but someone gave him a good pop earlier. And that was, I mean, the crowd erupted for stuff like that.
Whether it's a baseball coach with the personality of a Tony Vitello or a Diego Pavia, if you're on the other boat, you want them to absolutely suffer all day and you want to just pound those guys into the turf. But, man, they're good for college football. They're good for college athletics.
No doubt about it.
Those personalities.
I mean, seriously, do you think the SEC likes to have a former Heisman Trophy winner of this conference on the sideline?
No.
Shooting birds?
No. And I was not including that. I was just talking about overall.
No. I wasn't directing that at you. Okay. I was just saying, the conference and them allowing him on the sideline.
Anybody shooting birds, but especially a guy like Johnny Manziel.
Well, and I would just be interested because I know we have John Mack and a couple other people that are A&M fans that listen and chime into the show. Because I just had the thought, right? If you're an Auburn fan, right, and you see Cam Newton at a, I don't know, at
Tennessee game.
Yeah, at a Tennessee game wearing a Hendon Hooker jersey.
Right.
Like, how are you going to feel about that?
Sure.
Like, are you going to look, oh, well, that's good for Cam. He looks like he's having a fun time. Or are you going to start to go, why is this guy out here supporting another pro? We didn't. He got nothing from them in college. It's all because of our program. I would just be curious if you're an A&M fan. Like, feel like you'd feel a certain type of way about Johnny Manziel going and openly supporting another SEC program.
I'm sure they excuse it because
it's
of
Johnny.
What Johnny did to the program.
Well, and it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
He's not there cheering, like he said, in a Mark Ingram jersey for Alabama. But you just don't see that a whole lot.
No, you really don't. The biggest thing to me in that game was Alabama's defense obviously being able to adjust. But I thought that the plan that they had, the 15 minutes that you held it, time of possession, that was a big factor. But I don't think enough can be said about the defense, but also Jam Miller. And you start looking at those. Those are, by the way, all the ingredients you need to win a big football game.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I don't know. Like I said on Friday, I just have the utmost respect for Clark Lee and Vanderbilt as a university and as an athletic program. Seriously, for them to let that sideshow kind of direct and take away from a very good football team.
It felt like you were focusing on things outside of the game as opposed to just.
And if you're Nick Saban and you're sitting there in Tuscaloosa, you're like going, this is the recipe right here for an Alabama win against Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. Is looking at all this sideshow stuff. that's going on.
I wonder if anybody will ask Clark Lee when he's speaking at the Birmingham Quarterback Club this morning about it, which I think is very interesting.
So, and I mean, I was down there in Tuscaloosa, so I wasn't watching it on TV. But from what I understand, when Diego Pavia grabs his junk in front of the student section, were they not on the broadcast in the pregame? Was it not an interview with Clark Lee talking about how great of a leader Diego Pavia is?
Mm-hmm.
And then they go immediately to him on the field, and it's him grabbing his junk in front of the fans.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
after
it's
his
just-
coach is talking about how mature and how great of a leader he is.
Just awesome. And then him practicing his victory formation kneel downs.
Oh, the knee and then throwing the football up in the air.
I mean, it's just
When I saw somebody that said he does this before every game, I said, why? Why does he do that before every game?
You practice it like you're going to do it, I guess.
still a very good football team. I think that they're going to get
Yeah.
a handful of wins in the Southeastern
Are my
Conference.
earlobes safe?
I believe they are.
I think so,
Yeah,
too.
I think your earlobes are.
I believe you're safe. But doesn't take away from the fact that they're a really good football team, and they gave Alabama everything they could. That was a
They
much
did.
closer game than
Yeah.
what the final score indicated. But like
That
I said,
final score,
just
man.
my opinion. You're Clark Lee is a first class dude, good coach.
Oh, that late cover. Oh,
The whole side story stuff is it's not necessary.
It was, wasn't it?
you had that garbage touchdown.
Yeah. It'll be interesting how they bounce back, though, because I think that's a team that's good enough to beat LSU based on what we've seen from LSU. But how do you pick yourself up after you talk such a big game? You have a letdown on the road. Can you bounce back this week? Because that's what it takes to be a contender in the SEC.
We've got phone lines. They are jam-packed. We've got text messages. This is Reaction Monday. We will get to all in three-man front. We'll open up the phone lines, 1-800-239-WJOX, the courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. If you've got a dangerous branches blocking your view, call Golston Tree Service today at 205-337-4443. Golston's licensed pros, they handle everything from trimming and pruning to full tree removals. Fast, safe, and affordable. Don't wait until the next storm causes damage to your home. Call Golston Tree Service today. Golston also offers 24-hour emergency tree service. So when it comes to your trees, don't risk it. Call Golston Tree Service at 205-337-4443.
We will get to your text, your phone calls on this reaction. WJOX. You want to talk Alabama and Vanderbilt? You're welcome to do that. Or you can talk about another particular game, like Bama Hater probably wants to. Bama Hater, how are you?
What's happening? Everybody doing all right?
Yes, sir. How are you? Good.
Hey, man, I can't complain. Of course, I want to talk about the number one team in the country, which is number 2 right now. The only reason they're not number 1 is because, once again, Cristobal did the Cristobal thing. He took his foot off the gas and allowed Florida State to get some fourth-quarter points. You guys know that game was out of reach.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm going to go back to
ask Pat the text I sent him at halftime. It said clearly Miami's the better team.
I'm going back to preseason when I gave this information out. We had a 4-touchdown lead in the third quarter versus a like opponent that Alabama played, and they only scored 17 and a loss. So let me spot like that, my friend wanted to highlight Bama beating Vanderbilt by 16 points, but I'm gonna put a searchlight on Alabama losing by double digits to an underrated team. So I'm going to put that out there. And for you guys that keep talking about, Manziel, he shouldn't have done what he did, man. He's a Heisman winner. He should have had a little bit more class than that. But I do remember a few years ago when Texas had the game out of reach at Bryant-Denny and the fans were acting an idiot. We didn't have this same outrage of those fans telling some African-American players to go back to the ghetto and call them the N-word. So it goes both ways on class and stupidity. So I wanted to bring that out because none of that is welcome in the college football game, in my opinion.
I know, I agree. I mean, none of that should be out there, period. You're right.
That's right. Hey, I want to get you guys' opinion. Should Miami be the number 1 team in the country?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Bring me some Miami gear. I'll wear it.
And I'm really surprised I'm really surprised the coaches poll had Miami at number 3 yesterday. I don't know what the coaches of the SIDs are seeing or not seeing. I'm not sure.
Well, we are. My opinion on polls and why they put certain team in certain spots, but it's to be expected. All I want us to do is keep winning and don't lose a game that we're not supposed to lose, i.e., an unranked opponent or somebody that's ranked way lower than we are. So hopefully Cristobal won't do the Cristobal thing down the road, and we'll wind up in the playoffs and hopefully get to that championship game where I think we need to be.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Bama Hater?
Hey, of course.
All right, so you agreed that a couple weeks ago, if Alabama didn't lose to Georgia and Vanderbilt like you predicted, that you would give your honest assessment of the Crimson Tide. So I'm just curious right now, just what are your thoughts on Alabama, as biased or unbiased as you want to be? What are your thoughts now?
Let me give you my 100% honest opinion. Alabama's running game, it doesn't scare me. They wouldn't have a chance against Miami's defense. The passing game, I think the passing game is elite. I'm going to give him credit because Ty Simpson, he's better than I thought. He makes throws that, I don't think Miro could have made. So the passing game is up to par. The running game, I think, is like average. The defense has improved. But I want to see him against some more competition, just like I want to see Miami against some better competition down the road. We're not going to know about either of our teams until probably week 10 or 11, right at the end of the season. So, better competition is coming for both of our teams. But my assessment of Alabama, I think they're ranked where they're supposed to be right now.
Then we'll get a better picture of Alabama, given their schedule, than what we will Miami.
Yeah, probably so. But hey, as you guys always say, we can only play who's on the schedule.
That's right.
I'm not contending that at all.
It's going to be Duke and Miami in the ACC championship game.
No, I don't want that. No, I want to see Texas A&M in the SEC championship game.
The toughest game that Miami has left, just looking at the schedule, would be at SMU.
Man, listen to me very carefully. These Miami and Alabama, we don't lose to the high-ranked teams. We lose to a team that we're not supposed to.
Yeah, like Georgia Tech last year.
Yeah, like
Maybe
Florida
Syracuse
State got
gets you
beat
guys at
by
home.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Hell, we can easily lose to Pittsburgh. It's that type of game. So, I see it when I see it.
Yeah. Well, Bama Hater, always great to hear from you. Thanks for the call.
All right, man.
Appreciate it very much.
Pitt looked good this weekend.
Yeah, they got rid of the backup, the Alabama starting quarterback. Went to their backup. Holstein was benched, right? Wasn't that the case?
So
Yeah, they went with a freshman,
How about that?
and they absolutely blew the doors off of Boston College.
They sure did. Molly, our three-man front Twitter poll question of the day asked Vanderbilt fans who was the most disappointed.
Yeah, we gave you 4 options. We said Diego Pavia or his mom, Antoinette, Johnny Manziel, or Theo Vaughn. And right now, winning to no one's surprise is Diego Pavia with about 65%. Johnny Football is in second with 29%. Diego's mom is in third with about 4%. And then Theo Vaughn's in last with only 2%.
I really like the name Antoinette. It's a pretty name.
I do too.
Thought I'd throw that out there. She sounds like she needs a win after this weekend.
It was amazing how the producers in the truck for ESPN pivoted very quickly away from seeing every single move that Antoinette was making at her seat to Ty Simpson's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like you never saw Pavia's mom again after things started going south. Then all of a sudden it was all about Ty Simpson's mom.
Watching Ty Simpson after the game, and I don't know what his professional prospects are, but watching the post-game stand-up, I thought either Ty Simpson's going to be like his dad and he's going to be a coach, or I could see him as a youth pastor.
I will just say,
Is that a fair assessment, Connor?
And yeah, that is a good assessment. And I'm not saying he's going to become this guy, because I think who I'm about to compare him to has absolute elite leadership skills and seems to be just a top tier human being. But hearing him after that game and the way that he's talking about, okay, the win was great, but here's everything I did wrong and everything I need to do to be better for this team to be better. I haven't really heard that from an Alabama quarterback since Jalen Hurts. And it reminds you a lot of that in terms of he doesn't care about, how much respect he's getting, all the accolades, all the praise. He's focused on what can I do this week to make sure that I'm better next week than I was today in a victory. And I think that, if you're an Alabama fan, makes you feel very confident moving forward. That's an awesome thing to hear from a young man.
Back to that Miami win, as Bama Hater pointed out, I mean, they were up 28-3. That game was well in hand. And then Florida State definitely made it interesting towards the back end. But Miami's got to get cleaned up. They had 114 yards in penalties.
Yeah.
They got to get that cleaned up. But that is the first road win for Mario Cristobal at Miami against a ranked opponent.
Well, and there comes a point, we talked about this with Alabama. It was not the case against Vanderbilt, but Miami's going to have to be able to run the football. When they need to run the football, be able to run the football. Didn't have to do it. Carson Beck, he was impressed with 20 of 27, over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. That opening drive for Florida State in that stadium, how electric it was for them to go down and only get 3 points. And just watching Gus's offenses, if he can't generally get it on that first drive, which is going to be a scripted drive, it is for a lot of coaches, then that's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, because
I told my wife that Florida State's not going to win this game.
That opening drive that you're referring to, a lot of misdirection.
Yeah.
They got all the way down to the 5-yard line.
And you saw him continue to pull out some of those bags. And again, either Alabama or Auburn fans in the state who have watched a good portion of his career as a play caller, when he's doing that, he doesn't feel great about the matchup, and he's trying to get the points early when he can. They weren't able to do it. Hats off to Miami.
Yeah.
State the case for number one. They did.
Yeah, they looked great. Carson Beck looks like the guy we thought he was going to be last year at Georgia. So they're in a good spot right now, and their resume is, at this point, you're coasting because their resume is really, really good right now, and just don't lose to one of those teams you're not supposed to, like Bama haters.
And that's what Miami fans are waiting for.
Yeah. I think that's what every team's kind of waiting for at this point.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, not only the SEC, but I think just when you think 1 week, one particular team looks like the world beater and that nobody's going to come close to touching them, it brought down to reality. I think that's just the world of college football that we currently live in. More of your calls, your text on Jocks. 10:45, Jocks. This is Reaction Monday. Always your phone calls welcome on this day after a very, very busy weekend. You know, the SEC slate was not the Florida Gators took care of business against the Texas Longhorns. You know, and it was pretty funny because I thought back. Do you remember back right before the season started? You remember that great quote from Stephen Orr Spurhead? They've got Arch Manning already winning the Heisman. If he was this good, how come they let Quinn Ewers play all the time?
Yeah.
That was that incredible quote prior to the season. Now, Arch Manning did throw for 263, 2 touchdowns, ran for 37 yards, but he's also picked off twice in the second half. He was pressured 60% of his dropbacks on Saturday. Do you realize that just one other Power 4 quarterback has faced a higher pressure rate over the entire season?
Jackson Arnold?
I don't have that person, but
not a bad guess, honestly.
I'm going
to stick with that guess.
Very well might be. But DJ Lagway finally got his freshman wide receiver, Dallas Wilson. He was back from an injury.
What a beast.
I mean, this guy, 6 catches, 111 yards. So here's the other kicker.
Does the guy from Ohio State know that there's a receiver that's pretty good down Gainesville?
South of the border?
He'll be on their squad next year.
Probably.
So heading into Saturday, Florida's offense ranked 120th nationally out of 136 FBS schools in yards per play, which was 4.94. They had not put up more than 20 points since week 1 against Long Island. And the Longhorns were number 4 in total defense. Just an amazing performance as Lagway threw for 298, 2 touchdowns. And as I mentioned, having Dallas Wilson back, all of a sudden, anytime you think that Billy Napier with his back against the wall, you think it's going to be a problem and maybe he's going to get fired, he comes out and his team responds. So it's pretty amazing. We're 6 weeks into the season now, and it's very difficult to project that a Texas Longhorn team that is now 3-2 and that does not have a Power 4 win under their belt this season, I don't think they're going to make the college football playoff.
Well, even after the Ohio State game, and then you started seeing them play some of the non-conference teams that they did, you knew something was off. And the question was, can this elite defense keep the team in the game while hopefully Arch Manning matures in this offense and gets more comfortable? That has not happened. And I don't know what the long-term plan is at quarterback for Steve Sarkisian, but did you see his reaction as he's headed out to midfield after they got beat? That was all right, we're going to have to figure something out.
I know this is going to seem like I'm just kicking them while they're down because I've made it very clear I'm not impressed with Arch Manning so far this year. And Pat, you just said, I don't think this team's making the college football playoff. I think at this point, seriously, you're hoping you can find like 7 wins on that schedule if you're Texas, because you have Kentucky and Arkansas, which I think right now, I still feel pretty good that Texas can handle those games. I don't know if that team can beat Mississippi State. I think that's kind of a coin flip now, and you look at who else they have. I don't think they're not going into Athens and beating Georgia. They're not beating Texas A&M at the end of the year if they look like this. So, I mean, I think it's very real right now for Texas. Not only are you worried about, I don't think the college football playoff should even be a thought in your mind right now. It's how do we not go under 500 and miss a bowl game altogether? I mean, it's bad right now.
I don't think you guarantee a road game in Starkville.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're not going to make a bowl game, but you can see a very clear path to them winning 5 games this year.
My projection was they were going to finish 9-3. I think that what you just said, maybe I think they're closer to 7-5 than they are.
Yeah, I think it's more
9-3.
likely right now that they don't make a bowl game than they were to be in the college football playoff conversation at the end of the year. Like, that's how quickly this thing has.
They've got at least 2 more losses coming, Pat.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So they won 9 games on the road. They had a 9-game road winning streak until Ohio State, and now they've lost their last 2 games on the road. And this is the first time under Steve Sarkisian when Texas has been ranked in the top 10 to lose to an unranked opponent. So, and you heard Eric Henry last week from Horns 247 when he told us that as long as that defense, because we always hear defense travels, and they were the 4th best defense in all of college football, when you show up in Gainesville and you give up that many yards and points to a team like Florida, then all of a sudden there's red flags, because you already had red flags about the offensive line and Arch Manning. But now the one thing that you could depend on every single week was the defense, and now it's going the other direction. They got big-time problems.
Well, the problem when you have a talented defense and you're not getting support on the other side of the ball, it's just a matter of when does that start to set in and affect the defensive play. And I don't know if that was a case or a healthy DJ Lagway, because we heard Napier and making the prediction that we were going to see a different DJ Lagway. We did. But I think some of it does fall at Texas and just not being the team that some people thought that they would be. I don't know what you do. I mean, Arch Manning is – I'm not saying he can't improve and become what a lot of folks predicted that he would be eventually. I just don't see it.
Well, I think the question you have to ask right now, if you're Sarkisian, right, is you have to look and go, is this a guy that I think I can win and compete for a national championship, an SEC championship, a playoff spot with next year? Because if you ask yourself that question, you think the answer is yes, then you stick with it and you just take the lumps as they come and you say, this was a work in progress. He is going to be much better with a year of experience under his belt. But I don't know if you can say yes to that question right now. And I think if you're Sark, you have to start looking at the future and going, not only is this guy probably not the answer this year, but I don't know if he's the answer next year either. And if that's the case, maybe it's time to give the backup a look. See if you got something else to go.
First time since 1964 that the preseason number 1 and number 2 teams in America are now unranked into the 5th week of the season. First time since 1964 with Penn State and Texas both out of one of the polls.
When I look at the SEC, and we got a lot of good games left, but Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Alabama, and this is not in order, and Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. What if we get Alabama and Ole Miss for the conference championship, Pat?
What if you get Texas A&M and Ole Miss? 2 teams that have never won it before. Never played for it before.
No, in my scenario, I don't like that.
You don't like that one?
No, I want the old guard and then new money.
Lane Kiffin finally takes down Alabama, and it's for an SEC championship.
I didn't say that either.
Well, the one thing's for sure.
The storyline.
Yeah.
So it could be that.
If that were to happen, whoever's going to the SEC championship game, those 2 teams they would have had their ticket punched to go to the CFP. So, yes, you want to go and win it, but that would bode well for both Lane Kiffin and Kalen DeBoer, because you got your programs into the CFP. And at the end of the day, you know, we've talked about it before. I know it's prestigious. It looks pretty to put on your media guide, but it's like the NFL. How many people remember who won the NFC East last year? It's all about the Super Bowl and holding that trophy up. So
the problem that I see in that potential scenario would be, and everybody's got to keep winning their games, but it would be Ole Miss's schedule, having to travel to Norman, Oklahoma, and then also having to travel to Athens, Georgia. Can you split those 2 road games and then hold serve at home? I don't know. What's that offense going to look like on the road against that Oklahoma defense?
Meanwhile, the 2 ships passing in the Texas night. Texas going one way. You got A&M, impressive win against a spunky Mississippi State team, but the Aggie offense, very impressive. 479 yards, 299 on the ground. They just absolutely eviscerated the Mississippi State run defense. Matter of fact, they produced 7.3 yards per play and 6.4 yards per carry against Mississippi State, and they held Mississippi State's offense to only 219 yards.
And they got shut out in the first quarter, too. So they did all that in 3 quarters of work. Yeah, they were very impressive.
Mississippi State 1 of 10 on 3rd down.
Also, I have to say, the black helmet